Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, March 8th, 2016. This is the Fairmont Area School Board meeting. Our roll call this evening is all 6 members of our Fairmont Area School Board are present. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You should have a green agenda in front of you, and so we're going to move to the minutes from our last meeting, which was on February 9th. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
I have, and I'd make a motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nicole. A motion by Dan, a second by Nicole to approve the February 9th, 2016 school board meeting minutes as printed. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then on your green agenda, the only thing I have to change is if you look in board committee reports, C, Southern Plains board meeting was not held on February 22nd, so Julie will not have a report on that, so you can just cross that off. Anything else that needs to be changed or amended to the agenda? Then I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the March 8th, 2016 school board meeting agenda as amended and presented.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. A motion by Nicole, second by Julie to approve the March 8th, 2016 meeting agenda with that one correction. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So we'll move right along to celebrations and school and community reports. And we have 2 this evening, and the first one is from the PET organization, which is Parents and Educators Teaming Together. And Laura Dunker is here to talk to us about that. So we welcome her to the board meeting. So interested to hear and what PET's been up to this year. Welcome.
Hi. Okay.
It's on.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm Laura, as she said. Myself, I've been part of the PET team for 4, if not 5 years. We kind of start our calendar year with the back to school carnival, a chance for all the teachers to come and bring their kids and all the students to come and join us for a celebration. We play bouncy houses and face paint and raise the money to put towards projects throughout the school year. Our second event is usually our chip shop fundraiser. A lot goes into that. We hand out packets to the school and we help prepare and make the order comes in, and that also goes back into putting things towards field trips and needs for classrooms and grade level activities.
What's a fundraiser?
The chip shop fundraiser.
Chip shop?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a big, they order from catalogs. The kids take catalogs home.
Okay.
We help organize that. We also provide meals called Feed the Teachers for the conferences. They do both at the elementary and the high school now. PET kind of branched over to the high school a year ago. Then we've also gotten the kids involved with designing t-shirts. This last year they picked out the new design for our black t-shirts that came out. The proceeds from that sales, we sell those at back to school conferences. And just randomly, we can walk into the school and purchase one. Also goes back into directly to classrooms. We spend a lot of time volunteering. Myself, I have helped with reading tests. We'll be celebrating our Boxtop Contest here shortly, so I'll go in and volunteer. Their reward day, I'll be playing games and having snacks, so we'll go hang out with the kiddos. That brings me to our Boxtop Contest, which takes a lot of our time. We have a bucket in each classroom at the elementary school. We spend a lot of time cutting box tops and counting box tops. The kids have a great time with it. The teachers have a great time with it. We also do other collectibles, which would be the Quick Trip milk tops and milk moolah, things along that line to help raise funds or get items for the school. Our Halloween pumpkin patch contest was new to us this year, and it was a chance for the kids to design a pumpkin around one of their favorite book characters. And they had a lot of fun with that. I think we had 30-some entries this year, so it went over really well. And it's just a chance to for the kids to branch out and do something other than just academics and everything at school. And we also have our other events, which would include our book fair, the back-to-school conferences that we help hold. Like I said, we sell the t-shirts there. The Youth Expo and the Family Fun Fair we will participate in this year, and along with K-Pals, we help serve their meals for the kindergartners to have their opportunity to come learn math and reading skills. That about sums us up.
You guys keep very busy all
We do.
school year long, though. You make it sound like it's nothing, but it's you spend a lot of time, and there's, I don't know, how many people are in PET now?
About 8 to 10 of us right now.
Yeah.
We're branching out. We've gotten a few new members, but yeah, it takes a lot of our time to
Yeah.
do things and organize things. But
So if
we have a lot of
somebody
fun doing it.
wants to join your group, how would they go about that?
They can actually contact Michelle Rosen, who is at the elementary school, or any of our members of the PET team. We do have a Facebook page. It's we just changed it. Fairmont Elementary Parents and Teachers, Parents and Educators Teaming Together, I think is what it's at the moment. But we
Okay.
do have a Facebook page, and I try to post on that frequently.
Okay.
Take a lot of things from the district page and repost, as we seem to have 2 different audiences. So
Yeah.
try to get the contact out there with other parents to get them involved. I think that's important.
So do you have a separate group at the high school, or is it the same
That
group?
is some of our original parents. Their kids transitioned to the high school, so they kind of went over there and
They kind of
fill
move
the
along
role-
with their
fill
kids.
the role
then.
over
Okay.
there. Yep.
Okay.
I know they just did Feed the Teachers as well. I'm not too familiar with their end of things because I don't have kids in the high school yet,
Uh-huh.
but next year I will. So
Great. We're really
Yeah.
appreciative.
yeah, they seem to like us.
Yeah. That Feed the Teachers has been very well received.
Well, they
you
have a
know.
long day when they have to be in school all day with the kids and then do conferences at night. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a little way to give back.
And get a treat and some good food. That's very cool too. So yeah. Anybody else have questions for Laura on the PET organization?
I know one of the main objectives of PET is to connect volunteers with teachers. So if anybody in the community would like to volunteer in the school in any way and at any time of the day, you can contact either the schools or you can contact the PET organization, and they'll be happy to make connections. And we want the schools to be open, and this is just another avenue for the public to get involved.
So if they wanted to volunteer for one event, they could, or for one day or something, it wouldn't have to be a necessary year-long commitment?
Correct.
Yep.
We're open. We've had volunteers come in and make copies for classrooms, anything from a few hours a week to, like, some of us are in there sometimes on a daily basis for various things. But yeah, otherwise, like Feed the Teachers, we branch out, and if a family just wants to bring 1 item or 2 items for Feed the Teachers once or twice a year, it's kind of available in a wide range of opportunities.
Yeah, there's never an end to those opportunities either. So, and thank you and all your members for all you do for the
very
school
welcome.
district, for the kids, and for the teachers, and
It's
for
pretty-
really it's for the community to make us all stronger. We just appreciate all that you've done. So,
I think
Thank you
we have
very
a
much.
pretty passionate group about our kids, so
Yeah, you're
it's a
very
pleasure to do it
passionate.
for everyone.
yeah.
Thank
very
you.
cool.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. All right, then next on our community reports is we our 2 of our teachers are here, Holly Christian and Sarah Goodall, and they're going to talk about technology integration. So you should have a packet thing. And
Yes. I have a
You-
packet of information that I gave to everybody. It includes the presentation that I'm going to share, and I'll point out different items as I go through it. Is it okay if we sit here and that's okay with everybody? Okay. We got started and were asked to present, I thought it was important to just kind of give everybody just a brief history of the one-to-one program. And so I have an array of things, and my assistant Vanna here is going to help me out as I go through these. The very first year that we started with a one-to-one, it was the class of 2015, 2012. Just flip around. Yep. 2012, 11, and 12, and we had these netbooks that we used that first year for students that were participating in the program. They were in the 9th grade that year. The next year, the same class, as they moved to the sophomores, kept their same device. The new incoming freshmen got a similar netbook. It was a little bit newer. It had a little bit nicer keyboard. Again, students that participated, these were issued to those students. They took them home. They were responsible for them. In the 3rd year, which was the first year I was actually in this tech integration position, we took a switch. And we purchased tablets. And this is the tablet that I have that I was issued that year to use. They came with a case, they had a stand, you could hook up the keyboard, and they worked like an Android tablet. That year did not go well. By Christmas, we collected all of those back, and Sarah has an example, it's not hooked in there, so you have to be very careful of it, of what reasons why this did not go well. This was a device that was actually left on the counter in the library the very last day of school that year. Some student just left it, so you can see the keys are all ripped out. It was not our best choice, so we collected those in December and reissued netbooks back to the students. The first 3 years were a lot of learning because the students did have them, they took them home. It was difficult for teachers to truly integrate technology because, number one, we didn't require students to participate in the program because there was a cost to it. So you could have a room full of 30 students, but not all 30 students participated, which required the classroom teacher to have extras in the room for those students that didn't have them. So if we had a classroom of 30, and I'm just gonna make these numbers up, let's say 10 didn't participate. So now that teacher needs 10 in the room to be able to do any type of integration of technology. So the 20 students that have them and participated, maybe only 15 of them brought theirs to class because 5 of them forgot them in their locker or in their car or forgot them at home. And of those 15 that actually brought them, maybe only 10 of them were charged. This is what our classroom teachers dealt with on a daily basis. So it was very hard for them to truly integrate themselves in technology. So starting in 2014 and to the present, we have gone to a Chromebook and we have bought carts, and the carts are located in classrooms. So a teacher that has a cart of Chromebooks, and they range from 30 to 32, or maybe a few more if they have bigger class sizes, that teacher knows they have technology at the students' hands every day. So they can plan on it, they can depend on it. As far as the IT department goes, damages, I think we had 5 last year that needed repairs of all of the devices that we had in classroom. You could go 5 a day before with some of these because of the wear and tear and kids taking them with them. So from my experience, it's not that the student needs to take them home, it's that they need the technology when they need to learn. When we went to the carts in the classroom, we developed a program where students could check them out. And the first document you see after the PowerPoint, it says Fairmont High School Student Technology Initiative. At the top, it looks like this. This is an agreement for any student that would like to check out a device from the Media Center and take it home. The conditions are that if they do want to do this, the student signs this and the parent signs this, and they are 100% financially responsible for the device. So a student can come after school, check out the device, and bring it back before first hour the next day. And I went through the stats, so I have all of the papers and the checkouts from last school year. This is it. For the 14-15 school year, we had 53 signed forms on file. So 53 students turned in forms. Throughout the year, we had 119 total checkouts the entire school year, and that was comprised of 17 different students. This school year, as of on March 3rd, I went through March 3rd, we have 30 forms on file to check out devices, 101 total checkouts between 7 students. So these numbers tell me that our students have other items at home that they are using to complete their schoolwork. And I know personally for my students in my classes, I've never seen one of them ever check out a device, and I know my students are using technology every night that they have homework. So the idea that we have to have a device for a student to take home, I think some of this shows that our students have other things or are using other devices to complete their work. It's not about necessarily the device. And many times, as a parent, they can provide a much nicer device than we can because as a district, we can't keep up with the newest all the time as far as devices go. Now, when I was asked to come and present, I didn't want you to hear just from me. I wanted you to hear from the teachers that were in the classrooms and are using this all day. So I picked or approached 3 different teachers for very specific reasons, and Sarah will hear hers in just a little bit. But the first teacher I picked, who was not able to come, but she let me share some information, was Cheryl Kidd. If you don't know Cheryl, Cheryl is a 7th grade language arts teacher, and I would say she is probably, I don't think I would be over-exaggerating if I would say she's maybe a year or 2 from considering retirement. And Cheryl is my poster child for why we want carts in our classrooms, because Cheryl has gone to town with the things she is doing with technology and the things she is having kids do with technology. She has jumped in with both feet, and I think if we took that card away from her now, she'd turn in her letter and resign. I really do, because she is so invested in using it and can see so much greatness with what the kids are doing. And she'll get excited. Sarah and her have a door between the rooms, and Sarah said she'll open the door and peek in and say, "Did you know you could do this? This is so cool." And she'll shut the door and go back and go. She is so excited, and it's just great. It's so much fun to see. So Cheryl has started using something called Google Classroom. It's a learning management system where she can put her assignments out there. She can put student work out there. Students can turn in assignments. So when she logs in, this is her, she allowed me to have her password. This is her Google Classroom. She has different class periods, different classrooms for each class period. So this is her English 7, Hour 3, Semester 2 class. Within that class, she can put quizzes, she can put assignments, she can put announcements out there with basic information, she can put the class syllabus. There's numerous things that she can put on this classroom, and it's available 24/7 to the students. That's the great thing. So one of the assignments that she was working on, a lot of them are writing assignments. So this first one, the February book letter, if I were to click on this, and I won't because there's student names on there, it would bring up all the students that have uploaded their assignments. And it allows Cheryl an opportunity to give them feedback. Where in a normal situation, if a student did a writing, they'd turn in papers, she'd have a stack of papers to bring home, she would red ink it and write all over it and hand it back and hope that they read through it. What she does now, when a student turns in something, she can put comments on it. And you can see here, and you won't see the student name, I won't scroll down far enough, but you can see where she has put highlights in here, and then off to the side there's a comment where she has given the student direction on what they need to fix. When the student gets an email that says there's something that needs to be fixed, they go in, they fix it, and off to the side, then they hit resolve. So off to the side here, you can see Cheryl's comments. When the student fixes it, they go over here and hit resolve. Cheryl gets an email, and she knows they're ready for her to take a look at it again. And this will go back and forth through the writing process. So she's able to do this anywhere. The students are able to do this anywhere. They don't have to be sitting in her classroom to do this. They don't have to wait for several days to get a response. It can be an immediate type of response. Now, it also, in her classroom, what she likes is having the devices have given the students voices in their assignments. For instance, she is having them read a fable and write a comparison fable. Is that what it is? Yeah, a comparison fable. And in old days, no technology, the student would be stuck reading whatever she put in front of them. What she's done now, in this case, is she puts a link out here. She has their directions. She puts a link out here to Aesop's Fables and tells them, you go in and choose. You choose what 1, 2, 3 fables you want to read, and you write your paper. This has given the students voice. It has given them ownership in their learning in this example. Now she also can put the quizzes out there, and she gave me a link to one of her quizzes. So if she wants to give an assessment, like this is her vocabulary quiz, she puts the link out there, opens it up, the students go in. So the first question, if you are negligent about your chores, your bedroom is probably, and they pick. And they go through the questions. This is just one example. They go through and they do this, okay? When they're all done, they hit submit. At the end of the school day, she has this set up with something called Flubaroo, where she can click a button and every student gets emailed their results. Not just I got a 9 out of 10. They get the quiz, they get how they answered, and they get what the correct answer was. So they get that immediate assessment back. And there are multiple teachers that are using this example for doing quizzes. Sarah uses it, Mr. Seagar uses it, Mr. Johnson uses it. I know there's multiple ones that do this. Yes?
Holly, does that then post directly into the teacher's grade book?
It does not, but it will post into Classroom, which, as Cheryl said, when the students can see the grade in Classroom, That alleviates the immediate gotta have it in Skyward. The student can see their grade, and she can get that much better. So if only half the class maybe has their writing assignment done, they're wanting to see their score, they can see it in classroom. So that pressure to get it into Skyward is not as great. Not that she's not gonna get it in there, but if you only have half, you now have half the students or half the parents going, where's that grade? She wants to allow the kids to have time to complete their work before that pressure of a grade.
And just to clarify, when you say the individual gets to know his or her result, not the whole class. I mean,
Exactly.
We're not posting, like the old days,
No.
we used to post.
No,
Okay.
just the individual.
So
And a
it's
student can go
confidential.
home, log in, and they can share it with their parents. A parent doesn't have a separate login, but it allows the parent and child to sit down, this is what I'm doing in class.
Flubaroo will also sort your results according to what
Can you
items
talk in
you.
the microphone,
Oh, sorry.
Sarah?
Flubaroo will also sort your results into items that you miss. It'll group them for you so that I, as a teacher, can see the most missed question. I can see easily like what concepts are being missed across the board. But it also does that for the student because Cheryl and I both attach a standard to all of our questioning. So we can sort that way. And a student can say, oh, I'm great in vocabulary, but I'm really struggling in inferencing skills. They can see that also.
Great.
throwing that up
So there's
there.
great tools that way. And one other thing that Cheryl wanted me to share as far as she is part of the 7th grade team, PLC, and one piece of technology as the 7th grade team, they are looking at piloting is something called Pear Deck. Is 8th grade using?
Not yet.
Not yet. And it's great for formative assessments. It allows for some interaction with the students as you're teaching, and it gives the teacher immediate feedback. Right now, they're just using a trial basis. There is a fee to that one, and so that's some of the things we're working on is the advantages and what they can do with that, so. I asked Sarah to present because I knew that she had been part of the program last year where she got to share a cart. And knowing the share piece versus now having one in her room every day, she's really noticing the difference. And I'm really seeing the difference in the things that she's doing. She was always using technology, but now that it's available every day, it's just bumped up.
Right. When I was sharing a cart, Jared Thompson and I shared, and he had most of his classroom on Moodle, so he needed them, I would say 80% of the time. So he was fine about sharing them. I just had to schedule in advance when I wanted them. So I really had to plan for when I needed that. Between then and now, just having them at my disposal, it's just been, like, I feel like a kid in a candy store, really, like all the things I can do. So I'm doing all the same things that Cheryl's doing. I'm finding that when kids can do it one grade and then they come to me, it's infinitely easier to implement because, oh, we do this already. The entire 8th grade team core, I believe, is on Classroom. We all have our own, so that's a commonality. The 2 programs I'm just going to show you are 2 of the ones I'm using that I'm in love with right now. Okay, grammar. We all know 8th grade was a big place for the grammar program, and traditional methods was hand 30 kids a worksheet, do a whole class lesson over an item, figure out if they can do it, move on. I mean, 30 at a time was just cumbersome. And I think if you wanted to teach grammar every day for an entire year as a class all by itself, you probably could. It's gigantic in breadth and depth. So I found this program. Cheryl and I were looking for something to alleviate. We wanted to differentiate more. We wanted some more autonomy from the kids, and we wanted to see results actually in their writing, and we really weren't seeing that. We found this program called No Red Ink, and I really like the way it's structured. We're currently not using the premium version. It has a lot of features that are unlocked just for the regular user. The premium, it just adds sort of a reports feature that actually I don't even think I need, so I'm pretty happy with the way it's working right now. But what a student sees when they come in here, and I'm viewing it as a student right now, on their practice tab, they will open this up, and this is just a sample. Every single topic that is covered is listed here, and then to what percentage of mastery they have shown on that particular topic. So individually, they can practice their way through the tabs, and I tell them, you can't quiz on articles until you reach 80 to 100% mastery. When you've shown in the practice that you can do that, then you can move on to adjectives. And then from there, you can move on to commas for formatting and so on. Kids have been moving their way through this program. you can see how many topics there are. I've already had 3 students who just on their own tested out of this program completely. I had to go find a completely separate program for them because they're just moving right along. But for everybody else, they're working their way through it. The nice thing is that the quizzes then that are generated for them are individual according to what they can do. And I just love the idea that instead of me giving one lesson to 30 kids, I have 30 separate lessons going on, and they're all tailored for what they want. Just as an example of what it might look like, they have to take an interest inventory at the beginning to tell them, it gives them, Disney characters, famous people, authors, books that they like, and once they choose it, all the sentences that this program generates come from their famous people. So I put a bunch of them in here just as practice today, but a sample lesson might look like this. Minerva McGonagall can cook Moroccan food. It wants you to select the adjectives. If you select something wrong, for example, it'll give you another chance, but I tell kids to look at the hint right away because then it opens up a tutorial on what they're actually asking you to do. And they can sit and read this and then go back and try to answer the question. What's happening for me at my computer or while I'm wandering the room, my computer is constantly letting me know when a kid is stuck on a type. Like sometimes they'll do 2 or 3 tries and they won't get it, and my little light bulb goes off and I know right who needs me, and then I can sit down next to them and say, let's talk through this because the hint wasn't working. But for some kids, all they need is just a little bit of guidance before they head back. This has completely changed my grammar instruction, like completely. And my biggest evidence for the fact that it's changing everything comes with, I did include it in your packet, my test scores. On my winter NWEA this year, I've seen the hugest growth in my language strand and also in my literature strand, which I'll connect to again in a second. But this quadrant will show you that really the only quadrant on here that's really negative is the lower left, which shows that they have low achievement and low growth. Like they maybe don't have great skills, but they're also not growing. Out of my 126 students, I only have 7 students in that quadrant this year. That's the best it's ever been at winter time. And that top right one, where it's high achieving and high growth, is the biggest it's ever been. So I'm pretty excited. And I have to believe, especially in the literature strand, that this grammar is helping because we do it once a week. The kids know as soon as they come in on Monday, usually it says no red ink, and they go right to their Chromebook. They all have a number, they check it out, sit down, log in, and we go. And so I'm loving that.
And you have a copy of this chart in your packet there.
So then the other program I'll just showcase real quick is one called Storyboard That. So vocabulary has always been an issue. And I, was really thinking about all the methods that we've used over the years in our school to teach it. And Marzano has the 6-step vocabulary philosophy that we've been using over and over again. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are the big components in that, and the third one is asking students to visualize a word, construct a picture. And we used to give them, a sheet of paper basically and say, write the word, write the definition, draw a little picture. That has grown very stale for students. So when I stumbled on Storyboard That, I wasn't even sure that this was very educational initially. It just looked fun. It had cartoony looking things. And I was like, ooh, colors, lots of colors, kids will like this. But then once I kind of inquired, their company sent me all the ways that a teacher could use this in the classroom, and they're all connected to standards, and I started getting real excited. And so just as a sample, I wanted to show you a couple of things that have been created in my classroom this year. This is a vocabulary wheel that we did for Shane, and I actually asked a student to make it. So I don't know if I can make that. Oh, yeah, I can. I gave them the words, is all I gave them: surge, deft, tension, and then I said, please find a picture or make one, create one that is a visual representation of that picture, and give me a definition, including the part of speech. And making these wheels was ridiculously entertaining. Like, the kids had the best time. They really cared about what the definition was, but then they had to create a visual image for it themselves. And all this program is a bunch of stock photography and great graphics, and they get to build it however they want to build it. Can you go back out of this fast? Oh no, there we go. Is it just back? Mm-hmm. Okay. So then I started looking at all their online templates, like, in addition to vocabulary, what else can I do with this program? And I found, we looked at character foils in one of our Westerns, and so the kids had to pick a character, start sorting out qualities about them, figure out what the foil quality was, write a summary and a definition. This one was for literary elements. Can you identify the literary elements in a story, summarize it, create a visual representation? They are so invested in this process that suddenly me giving them the little mountain on a sheet of paper and asking them to pinpoint moments doesn't hold a candle to asking them to create something like this. So I'm using this one pretty extensively too, in addition to all those other things, forms and Blueberry.
So do you use
and Google
textbooks
Docs.
anymore?
I have a textbook, and we only read one story from it, but we keep it because it's the Diary of Anne Frank, and that is just a staple in the curriculum. So that's the only thing we use our textbook for. We have we have one novel, Shane, that we do, and then all of the other units, short story, just our pulled-in resources. This year we're adding A Midsummer Night's Dream to the 8th grade curriculum, and so we start Shakespeare in about 3 days.
And you'll do that online?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have the actual copies of No Fear Shakespeare from Folger in my classroom, so they'll have a book to go with that. But a lot of my activities, Storyboard that has a whole component just for Midsummer Night's Dream. It's got all the templates ready, and I can just make a copy and put it in my classroom, and kids can log on, find the template, and go to town. And
So then, the kid, if they need a textbook, you just have a classroom set of textbooks now, and you just have
Right.
that as a checkout part
Yep.
too. So
Yep.
Okay.
they check it out if they need to. When we did Anne Frank, we did have kids who maybe couldn't keep up with the daily reading, who just checked one out at the end of the day and took it home and brought it back the next morning. But
Okay.
yeah.
Do you want anything? No?
Oh, the other ones that are on here, IXL we have as a district. I'm using that as my extension program for my kids who have tested out of No Red Ink already. They can only do 20 questions a day on that one, but they're pretty high level. And I have some of my 8th graders doing sophomore level grammar right now because they're just ready for that. ThingLink is a presentation tool that if you've ever had to give a presentation, that's just kind of a fun one to try. It's different for kids. New technology is just exciting to them. So same skills, all the stuff that goes with the standards, now use it in this program, and the engagement just is through the roof, really. And then the Purdue Owl is a writing reference center, and I love this place because every possible topic about improving your writing is available to you there. And I introduced that place to the kids this year, working on MLA citations. So all of them have that bookmarked on their Chromebook, and so when we ever do writing assignments, you'll always see, you walk in and they'll have their essay going, but there's always a tab with the owl open so that they can go back and check. Yeah.
Mrs. Goodall, how did you learn about all these different software
Well,
possibilities?
Holly is really good about sending me stuff every time she sees it. I'm on Twitter quite a bit, and I belong to a lot of Twitter groups that are always sending out stuff. I went to the Google Apps Summit 2 years ago up in Edina, and that was the best thing I ever did because it's almost overwhelming how much technology is in the room at one time, and you go home with pages and pages of stuff I gotta try. So once I got hooked up with kind of the people that do that, now I just have a steady flow of things coming in, and we collaborate with each other. One teacher, Cheryl actually, is always peeking in, and she just said to me the other day, "Do you know we have voice to text on the Chromebooks?" And I was like, "What?" And she said, "My student who's struggling with writing, there's that, you can just push a button and they read it in and it helps type it and we can edit it." And I went, "Oh, I didn't even know we could do that." So
I'm talking voice
Collaboration.
texting. I'm telling you.
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Mrs. Niss, we've had this discussion a couple of times. So yeah.
Awesome.
So it's being used. I'm just saying. I have a question. So, like, does Purdue Owl move with the kids then when they go to 9th grade to help them
Yep.
with writing? Does that moves along?
It's web-based and constantly updated.
Okay.
So MLA is a good example of this. Last year, so this year's freshmen, I showed them the OWL last year when we were doing MLA citation, and I had it just ingrained in their head that the URL had to appear at the end of the cited source on their page, and we just worked that like crazy. This year, I opened the OWL to do that lesson with my 8th graders, and the MLA has changed their standards. Now we no longer require that, and I just went, oh, we learned that last year, but I like that it just constantly updates, and it's always accurate, and it's just a great source for anybody who's needing anything.
I know we've
writing
had
style.
some people ask us or report that writing hasn't been a strong suit from our district. So if this
Oh,
can move
gosh.
with them, then it would be a help.
Yes, I wish I had brought what we're doing right now in my class. Using this Google Docs that you can comment and on, kids can peer evaluate each other's papers that way. And just today in my classroom, we are revising a character essay, and the amount of quality I can provide to them for feedback and instruction is exponentially greater when we have this versus me taking home a stack of papers, because sometimes with 126 kids, it'll take me 3 or 4 days sometimes to get through all of that. This is instant, and during class, I'm constantly back and forthing with kids all hour, and I feel like they're able to revise and fix and revise and fix. And I just brought my last batch of essays to my English language PLC, and we were looking at them, and Cindy mentioned to me, she says, this is some good writing. They're doing parenthetical citation at 8th grade already, and I really credit the technology for a reason that I can do that, because I'm moving so much faster than I could before.
Okay, cool.
And by having the Chromebooks, everything that the teachers are using with Chromebooks is web-based. There's no program loading. You don't load anything on a Chromebook. So they can go to any computer that has the internet and get to the items they're using in a classroom that has Chromebooks.
Okay.
So there's nothing specific, just sometimes a login.
Okay. Can I just ask you a quick question about the carts? Are those like charging carts?
Yes.
That's so they all hook in and they're all charged and ready to go.
Yes.
And how long does it take to charge? Or how long does it charge?
I can have a student use a Chromebook each hour all day and have it only get down to about 30%
Oh,
battery.
okay.
And we plug it in at night, and in the morning they're all 100%.
Okay.
And the nice thing is I can, every night, make sure they're all plugged in, lock my cart so there's nothing that can happen to it. And I know that tomorrow morning every kid has a clean Chromebook and ready
Okay.
to go. And
Right. Thank you.
The last teacher that I wanted to have come and also had some other things was Todd Seagar. Todd teaches 10th grade biology, and he has been part of the one-to-one program since the very beginning. He's my test dummy. If I find something new and I want to try it out, and I try it in my classroom and I want to see what it looks like in his because he has larger class sizes, he is more than willing. Let me try it. Tell me what it is. Tell me about it. I'll do it. So the first thing that I wanted to share was something that I sent him about a month ago. I ran across it on Twitter. I watched a couple videos. I thought, hey, this might be kind of cool. We're in the middle of some projects, so I can't really try it. Todd, you want to take a look at it? I sent him some links. He goes, yeah, hook me up. It's something called Google Tone. And what it does is it allows, through the Chromebooks, it's an extension that you put on your Chromebook, and it allows anyone to share with anybody else that has this extension. So he created something, and he let me come up and video in his room and let me put it into a blog what he was doing. So I put it in the blog that what Todd was doing was they were doing a project, and he had found an article that he quickly wanted to share with students. And I'll go ahead and play this first video.
The difference between mammoth DNA and elephant DNA. And we're trying to figure out, is the person guilty who's selling this ivory in his store? So other than looking at DNA fingerprinting, I found another article that relates to it, how you can determine if the ivory is from an elephant or it's from a mammoth. So in finding that article, I'd like to share it with the classroom. So what I can do is I can go to my computer and I have my speakers on, and I'm going to send you this article, and I'd like you to look at it. There we go. Oh, my volume's not on. I couldn't hear it. It's going to come out loud.
And it sends a tone. And then the students get it if they have their volume on, so he's allowed to share something. So as the class progressed, he sent them the worksheet, and in the next little video you could see the students get a little notice up. They can open the document and they can start working. And as it progressed, if a student didn't get it and he wants to continue teaching, well, Johnny, share it with Susie, because you can share with each other. Then as the class progressed and he wanted to make sure they were on the right track towards the end of the class, he said, okay, you've been working for X amount of time. I want to make sure you have the correct data as you work through the answer. He used Google Tone to share the answers with them to make sure they were on the right track, so as they were collaborating and talking, he could just easily put things out there for them. And it allowed students to share and collaborate with each other. So if you had a group of students that were doing a project and wanted to quickly share anything they found, a Google document, a website, they could use the Google Tone. But he was just more than willing to go in and try it, something new. It's something the kids could try. It's not something they use every day, but it's something new and they learn about it, and it was a good way to share information. Todd also uses Moodle quite extensively. Instead of Google Classroom, he is a Moodle user where he puts all of his classroom items. And this is his honors biology class, and I'm going to go in and look at it as if I were a student. So if I were a student in Mr. Seagar's class, this is what I would see when I would log in. And I see the different areas that he's got. He has done this in a grid, so he can go in. He can open and close items as he needs. But what he loves most about Moodle, and a lot of the science department does, is any student can come. If they were gone a day, if they know they're going to be gone, if they're sitting at home, or they're on a field trip, or they're on a vacation and they have access, they can go over here to the calendar. And everything they do is in the calendar. So when I rest my mouse on Wednesday, March 2nd, it gives those events. So they did a worksheet here, and the students can go right to it and get to it. Everything is there, 24/7, online, all the time. Now, Todd also uses a combination of Google documents, like Mrs. Kidd and Mrs. Goodall do as well. All of his documents are in Google. Students turn their work in online, and he's attributed that he can be sitting at home on a Friday night, have his cell phone. A student can turn their work in, be working on it. He'll get a message that they've turned it in. He can go right in, right then, and grade it, update Skyward, and student has instant feedback. All because of using the technology, which he couldn't do if they were still doing paper pencil type of things. So for him, I mean, I've worked with him at Moodle for a lot of years. And they've really got their questions lined up according to their standards when they do their tests. They do all their tests through that. He does tests the same way Mrs. Kidd does. He'll use a Google form. He puts images out there. Students look for things. They can get instant feedback. Once everyone has taken the test, they can get back the feedback, how they did, what the correct answers were, so on and so forth. He also uses something called Blend Space, which allows him to lay out his classes, put everything in order. And he also uses something called Virtual Labs, which this is something I was really asking him about. Being in science, are you using any online labs? So this is one of the things that they use. And so they've been using this gel electrophoresis, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. So they can go right in, and there's a lab for them that will talk to them, give them feedback, and they can do an online lab and doing different things. So he's really found a lot of resources. The entire science department has found a lot of resources for them to do things. They still do hands-on labs, and they would say that, and I would say that too. It's still important to do some hands-on things, but there's a lot of things on technology that they can be using as well. The fourth year that we did the devices, and it was the first year of the Chromebooks, but he had a cart in his room of netbooks. He texted me a picture. I was sitting in class and I got a text from him, and it was a picture of his entire class. And every student was sitting in a desk, and every student had a device, and every student was working on something. And remind you, this is the fourth year of our one-to-one. And he said, first time ever. First time ever, my entire class can be using technology all together at once. Because he had a cart in his room. Every student had a device. And I just thought that just spoke mountains for our switch and how important it was for student learning and how great that was. Let's see. There we go. The next sheet you have in your packet are the current Iste standards for students. This is currently what Iste has, and Iste is the International Society for Technology and Education. What you have in front of you is what's different than what you're seeing on the slide because they are in the process of revamping the student standards. They're in the second draft. And what I've shared with you are the 7 standards. You can't print the draft, you can't copy from the draft, it's still a work in process, but these are the 7 standards. By looking at these, this just really shows how technology has changed. It's not how to do something, it's not how to use a program. It's about empowered learners, it's about being a digital citizen, it's about being computational thinking. It's very high level, deeper thinking type of standards. And they're continuing to draft that, I think hoping to have it done by the end of the year so that we can start implementing these standards. And many of the tech conferences that you go to, if you go to Best Prep, trainings here in the state, they all go back to the Iste standards, and that's what students were doing. Oh, I'm missing my counting.
And Holly, is that for like what grade levels?
All grade
All
levels.
K-12.
Yes,
grade
K-12,
levels.
yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, and the specifics K-12 are a little bit different. But
Right.
you can see here, this is what you're looking at here, this is currently the standards. K-12, this is what students should be doing. And it would break down into more specifics, but these are your standards and benchmarks right now. So even the creativity and innovation, the communication and collaboration, these are standards we should be achieving when we're having students use technology now, which we are. We're doing that. If our students are doing the communication and collaboration by doing their writings with the teacher, that's the start of it. And then you continue to grow and grow.
Holly, how's that being assessed across the high school and junior high? You know, these are, you know, great goals, and some of the goals are being, you know, achieved just through the process, but how can we monitor success?
That's a great question. As a classroom teacher, teaching technology, do I know if my students know how to create an if-then statement in Excel? Yes, because that's what we're taught, and I assess them specifically on that. If I'm giving them assessments specifically on the Iste standards, I can measure that, or any teacher can measure that. But to embed that into another assessment muddies the waters a little bit. So to measure technology, in my opinion, there needs to be an assessment for technology. There needs to be a component of a standard, let's say in English, communication and collaboration, that they're showing that Iste standard in what they're doing. To just say it's happening, it isn't happening.
Yeah, you know, these goals, they really transcend, you know, tech. You know, these are the goals that, you know, that you know, the education leaders in the country are saying, you know, we need to develop thinking skills, problem
Exactly.
solving, collaboration.
Exactly.
And so you know, these need to be integrated into the, you know, to every classroom. And it's a question of how we do that and how we monitor success.
I agree. And is there one right answer? If there is, I don't have it. I'll be honest, I don't have one right answer on how to measure it. Can I see it happening in classrooms? Yes, I see that there are classrooms. I see what Sarah's doing. I see what Cheryl's doing and Todd's doing and Steve LeBert and Brad Johnson, and I see what Brian Willie's doing. I see what these teachers are using technology for in their classrooms. They're doing it. Part of, in my opinion, part of continuing this is the education of school today is not the school I went to. It's not the school you went to. It's not the school my daughter went to, and she's only been out of high school 4 years. It is entirely different, and it changes every single year. And we need to keep reminding when somebody says, well, this isn't how I did it. Yep, you are absolutely correct, it's not. Because we have to totally change the game plan. And I know that's probably not the answer on here, and I don't have a direct answer on the how to do it. It's a continual process. It is a continual on how to do it, how to measure it. If I could look at my accounting class, and I could come up with how technology has changed that class if I look back to when I didn't have technology to what I'm doing now. I could look at it that way. I could see a little bit of a direct line that way. But to compare my technology class to what Sarah's doing and say we're both reaching the same goals in the exact same way, I don't think is possible. I think, my personal opinion, the Iste standards need to be an extra piece on top of our standards. When I look at my UBDs and my standards that I'm teaching for accounting or I'm teaching for personal finance, I also need to include these Iste standards. So for instance, in personal finance, when they have to do insurance and they're out there communicating with insurance companies and they're looking for things, they're doing the communication and collaboration piece because they're going online to contact insurance agents, to look for quotes, to find the answers to things. They're using real life stuff. There's not a textbook. They can pick up the phone and call for some answers to their insurance agent, but they're also using real life things because that's the world these students are going to have for the rest of their lives. Is that technology, learning how to use it in a productive manner. And I welcome, if you want to I would love to have more of a discussion on some of this with you at any point in time. I welcome anytime you want to talk. A couple more things and I'll get through. I said we were going to say 15 minutes. I got counting kids waiting for me. But as we continue, the technology is more than just what we're doing here in the schools. It's also educating our community. Lee Stewart, our IT specialist at the high school, received a grant called the Blandin Grant. And it is designed for curriculum design and teaching time targeted towards kids and parents using technology appropriately for cyberbullying, personal security, things like that. And he wrote this. He said, this is in response to the recent cyber terrorism incidents at local schools, which underscored the importance of parents in monitoring and understanding their children's internet use. His hope is that we can do some things to bring parents in and teach them about some of the things that students are using and ask for their help, because as a district, we can't do it all. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to educate a child. We all have pieces of this puzzle, and we want the parents to know what's out there, what the students are doing, what we're asking of them here at school, and open that door of communication and have the parents be active in some of this stuff. It's not that the parents don't know, they maybe don't realize there's something new, because every day there's something new. It's hard for us to keep up. And so if we start developing that relationship and they hear about something and have some contact people at school to ask those questions, we can work together and figure out the good, the bad, and the ugly of those things that are going on out in the internet, out in the world, as far as that goes. So this was actually just last week we found out we got it, and there's some other pieces to it, but I wanted to share that this is what was another piece of the technology puzzle. The last three slides that you have are just some quotes that I have. During part of my day is spent covering the media center, so I've been using that time to do some professional reading and some technology reading. And as I've done that, I've run across some really good quotes here lately. The first one is from this book. It's called Ditch That Textbook by Matt Miller, and what he talks about is not being tied into the textbook that this is how you teach and using other things. So it almost is a little bit standards-based. He doesn't use those terms, but it's teaching to the standards. So this was a great quote in there. It said, in medicine, if a new instrument or technology-assisted procedure improves surgery by shortening recovery time or reducing the risk of infection, we would insist doctors learn to use it. In education, students should be afforded the opportunity to use the tools that will help them learn the best. When schools tell students to put cell phones away or limit their access to sites that have valid educational purposes, it's like asking an emergency medical technician to save a life with one hand tied behind his back. And I thought that spoke volumes. The next one was from a blog that I get once in a while, and I follow the guy on Twitter, and he's a professor out of Portland, and his blog the other day was just really good. He said the real power isn't in content delivery. It's in connectivity and creativity. It's not so much that technology is amazing in what it can do, but that students are amazing in what they can create. And I think Sarah has shown that tonight. I'm less impressed by the newest gadgets than by the newest ideas that happen in creative classrooms. It's possible that technology can transform education, but the real transformative power is in the hands of the teachers and the students they empower. And I believe I work in a building full of these teachers, truly. The last quote is from this book, The Innovator's Mindset by George Couros. He is a technology specialist out of Canada. I've heard him speak many times. I've spoken with him personally and met with him many times. He is my guru, kind of go-to person. He is very inspiring and wants what's best for kids. From his book, he said, the biggest game changers in education are and always will be the educators who embrace the innovator's mindset. These teachers and educational leaders look at change as an opportunity, not an obstacle, and they constantly ask, what is best for this learner? And I truly believe that our building does that constantly. The last few things in your packet I wanted to point out, there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet. And so I gave you 2 articles. One says, technology plays a key role in raising test scores through the development of higher order thinking skills. Awesome, that's what we're going for. The second one says, computer use in schools doesn't help test scores. Both valid points, both found on the internet. This is why we need to have the technology. Students are coming across this. What are they going to believe? How do they know what to believe? How do they know what's true or right? Because this is all out there. We have to be able to have the tools to teach them. There are 2 sides. Are they both valid? Who wrote it? Are they a valid person to be writing? What was their background? What facts did they have? If you only read one side, that's all you're going to know. There's always 2 sides to it, and we have to help our students to understand that. The last little thing, it is really hard to measure technology, and I respect the position that the board is in, is that the way you measure student learning is MCA test scores, standardized tests. That's what's shared, and that's the standard. As a tech teacher, knowing what my students learn in the class, I have a real hard time finding the straight line from what the tech class learns to the MCA English test. And knowing that it's a straight line to measure that technology, because I did this, they scored well or didn't score well on the MCA English test or the MCA math test. I respect that that's what you're given. I feel as a district we need to find other ways to show that technology is increasing our learning. There are other things besides those great big standardized tests, like what Sarah shared with you tonight. Our students are growing up in a world, they will always have technology. They will never know what it was like to learn how to keyboard on a manual typewriter, or what it's like to write, actually physically write a research paper. They will never know that, or to use a card catalog. We have to have the tools to be able to teach them how to use them to the best of their ability so they can be a contributing member of whatever community they land in after they leave our doors.
Can I add something to that really fast? You know, the MCA is also, it's not even offered pencil and paper anymore. It's on the computer. And if they don't know how to scroll 2 ways on a screen and use the highlighter tool and use the, I mean, that's an actual piece to the test. Not totally a straight line, but part of it. I mean, if we did everything pencil and paper, that would be a struggle. So just throwing that out there.
Holly, I just want to clarify something, that it's true that students in Minnesota take a standardized test.
Yes.
But that's like, to me, that's like measuring the temperature of today.
Right.
You know, it's a
It's
one day
agree.
shot. We really see what's happening in Minnesota, though, is that we're really focusing on the world's best workforce 5 pillars. That's what the legislature wants us to do. That's what the Commissioner of Education wants us to do. And when you, I'm going to just read off these 5 pillars just to remind the community what these are. And the 5 pillars are really good pillars. One is that we want all students ready for kindergarten. In fact, tonight there's a kindergarten roundup tonight. We're actually rounding up the kindergartners. We're going to let them go home tonight, but we're rounding them up to get ready to go to school. The second one is 3rd grade literacy. We want all students to be able to read by the end of the 3rd grade. The 3rd pillar is that we want to close the achievement gap. And in Minnesota, we have a severe achievement gap among our children of poverty and children of different racial and socioeconomic backgrounds. We need to close that gap. The fourth one is that we want all students to graduate high school. And we're fortunate that we're right at 90%, which is higher than the state average, but we have 10% more to go. And then finally, under the world's best workforce, we want every student to be both career and college ready. Because most of these little youngsters are going to live to be 85 to 90 years old, and they're going to work for 50 to 60 years. And we want them to be able to be career and college ready, because they're going to be learning the rest of their lives. So the goal of the school board really is to focus on those 5 big pillars. And it's not just on one test. I just wanted to point that out.
Right.
But, okay.
And I agree. I'd like there to be more, us as a staff, be able to share more assessments that show things that are happening in our classrooms and how the things that we're doing are affecting and improving student learning.
And then I noticed in the back of the packet, did the board get this too, a list of all the, how the
Yes.
teachers are using? And that was something the board requested, and I just want to thank the leadership of the high school and the teachers for doing this so quickly, because I think you only had about a week request notice, and thank you for doing that, and
Yep.
we'll read that in the next few hours.
Yeah.
And as we move forward with technology and all these, to look at education differently, I think that you'll see differences on the test. When kids are empowered to think,
Yes.
it'll just make a difference,
It will.
so.
It's a mindset. It
It
is. Students aren't going to be allowed to play school anymore. And I read that over and over again. And I had a conversation with my college accounting students about, I don't really know how to take notes, one of them said. And another one said, I know how to take notes. Teacher puts it on a PowerPoint and I write it down. I said, you're not taking notes that way. You're not reading and taking notes. And I went home that night, and I'm reading my textbook, and I'm getting ready for class the next day, and I'm like, oh, I should put that in the PowerPoint. Oh, I should put that. And I thought, I'm enabling them. I'm doing their job. Stop that. I'm playing school right along with you. And and so we have totally changed. I'm giving them other things to get them to pull the information out of the college text themselves to really learn how to get that information. My bad, I've been enabling them.
Yeah, it's to look at it differently.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and then when a test comes along, you look at it differently, and
Yes.
how do you survive that or pass it or whatever term
Right.
we want to use for that,
It's
Any
just,
other questions
it-
for-
it's just amazing to me how you're able to customize, because we all have different brains and different ways that we think. Some of us are mathematically inclined, some of us are, are language built, and to be able to have that tailored like that is, I hate to say, it almost makes me want to go back to school to see. I wish, that we would have had chances to learn that way, because I think I would have been able to find a lot more stuff that I liked. So that's really incredible. And I think, we're just scratching the surface.
We are. Something new every day.
Anyway, personal thank you for my cart. I'm so excited. It was the best thing that ever happened when she said, guess what you get next year? Made me spend the whole summer getting ready.
Any other questions for either Mrs. Goodall or Ms. Christian?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And if
Yeah,
you
thank
ever
you.
have questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at school. Stop by, email, call.
I'd like to continue the discussion.
Right.
I would too, definitely.
Or I sometimes have parents who want a link into my classroom account so they can just watch on a daily basis what we do. And I let parents do that all the time. So if anybody ever wants an in to one of my classrooms, let me know. And you don't see any of the other students. You only just see the assignments I post. And if you want to do them, I'll send you feedback instantly. Open invitation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we better move along then in the superintendent's report and calendar. Superintendent Brown?
Thank you, Diane. First of all, let's look at the calendar. I mentioned already that we're doing kindergarten roundup as we speak. And looking down here the rest of the month, we have a staff development curriculum committee meeting that will meet on Monday, March 14th. And I do know that there's a committee of teachers that are working on revising the Q comp plan for next year. Both the elementary and the secondary teachers did take a vote the other day to move toward going to teacher coaches instead of teacher evaluators. And so they're in the process of drafting up a new Q comp plan that hopefully we'll be able to take a look at the first draft of that on March 14th. And just a reminder that spring break is coming up already, March 25th to March 28th. That's a Friday and a Monday. And April 1, Friday, April 1 is Family Fun Fair. That's just not an April Fool's joke. That is really going to happen. And that's at the Fairmont Elementary. A couple of other things for the board. I worked on a enrollment analysis over the last week. And one thing that I observed is that right now we're currently serving 1,702 students. And at this time last year, we were serving 1,682. So we actually are serving 20 more students that are in our system still as compared to last year. And I did an analysis. The administrative support staff at both buildings are doing a really good job on a daily basis keeping track of the students that are coming in and out of our system. And so far this year, we've had 80 students withdraw from our school. We've had 81 new students enroll in our school. And when you look at the analysis of this, we've had a number of students that have been in our district that they've relocated out of state. 26 students have relocated out of state. 3 students went to private school, 5 students went online. 13 either went to the Area Learning Center or some other special education. Looks like 29 students went to other Minnesota schools, and we had 2 high school dropouts. The flip of that, though, is that we have a number of students coming into our system. We have 35 students that moved from another state into our system. We had 3 students that were online that came back, 3 students that were at the ALC that have now returned to our school. And we have 38 students that were in other Minnesota schools that have come. And we do keep track exactly of, we get pretty good information out in the last 2 years of when a student leaves, why they're leaving. It could be a job opportunity for mom or dad, or maybe mom and dad are either getting together, or mom and dad are splitting, or there's all different reasons, and we do have pretty good information for that. If you want to drill down, and when you meet with me individually, I can certainly share that information with you. Just want to remind the board that on Thursday and Friday this week that I'll be attending the Minnesota Association of Superintendents Conference up in Minneapolis. And then you notice I have a new button on. The button says Fairmont Teachers Believe. And we made these buttons and we distributed them at the elementary today. I think the secondary will be distributing them next week when they have teacher meetings. But I did read today, we've asked, when the teachers met today at the elementary school, tonight after school, we asked every elementary teacher to think for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and just write 1 or 2 sentences about what do you believe. As a teacher, what do you believe? What do you believe about public education? What do you believe about Fairmont area schools? And I've already read all of the responses already. We've had almost 60 responses from the elementary. And what we're going to do at the district level, we will be putting these all together. They're all anonymous. And we'll be typing this up, keyboarding them, word processing them, I mean. And we'll be making a list of those and make that available. It might be even something we post on the website or something. But I have to tell you, I'm really excited about the responses that our teachers are saying. And many of our teachers now are wearing these buttons already at the elementary. And when you see a teacher out in the community or an administrator, I would encourage the average citizen to step forward and ask, Diane, what do you believe in?
All kids are important.
All kids are important. That was one of the answers. You're going to be very pleased at the feeling that our teachers have. We have a very, very caring staff. And one thing I was going to point out, too, when they were talking over here, too, I was going to ask the question, but I already know the answer, and I just want to make a statement that much of the technology training that our teachers are doing, it's done off the clock. It's not done during the school day when they have kids. It's being done on the weekends. It's being done after hours, and it's being done in the summertime. And in order to be a teacher and to be a really good teacher in this day and age, you've got to work many, many hours outside of the traditional 8-hour day. And we're very fortunate and very blessed that at Fairmont we have many, many teachers that put in a lot of hours. It's amazing to me sometimes on the weekends when I drive by the schools how many teachers' cars are in the parking lot. And so I really appreciate that. That's all I have.
All right, any questions for Superintendent Brown? All right, then we'll move to financial business, and Sue is not able to be with us, so Julie will present the financial reports and bills this evening.
Yes, in your packet, you should have, the first thing we're going to review is the February 2016 cash balance report. There's the fund balances as they are at the end of the month of February. So there's nothing really to bring forward to you, but those are the funds. On the opposite side of that is our expenditure report of February 2016. 2016, as you can see, there's our budgeted amount in the first column. The second column is our monthly expenditures, and then the third column is year-to-date expenditures there at the top of the sheet. And you see the very last column is the percent of budget spent, and we're a little bit past, for the budget, a little bit more than halfway, we're more than halfway through the school year, so you can see a lot of our budgets are getting close to being more than 50% spent. The total, as you can see, debt service is 99.95%. And as you know, we do make our budget. We are budgeted for our loan payments or for our buildings and that the repaying our loans with back to the state there, and not back to the state, but our bonds. There you go. Thank you. And so we just made that payment. So what is budgeted? We're on that. At the bottom of the page is the transfers and wires for February 4th, 2016 to March 3rd, 2016. And because we did not have a meeting, the second meeting in February, everything is listed here from the first part of February to March 2nd. And then in there, you'll see that funds were, there's a transfer in there, liquid asset fund, to cover payroll and those other bills that are listed. And at the bottom there then is the total disbursement for payroll for the month of February. And then you should also have in your packet, one section should be on the P card. On the P card is the way that we pay a lot of our bills, monthly bills, and that by the district, they're listed there. Don't think there's really anything in there. Do you have any questions, anything? I know there's the charges are through for the Minnesota School Board Association conference in which several members had attended that. Amazon, and there's just different things, but they're just things that we can pay with the school account. And then you have two check registers. First is the February 23rd, 2016 register. There's a couple here I want to bring your attention to. Like I said, I just am not used to doing these, so look at that. The first one is MEI Total Elevator Solutions. There was the elevator inspection services for the 5 Lakes, the elementary school, and the junior-senior high school, and that is covered with health and safety dollars. Also then is Region 3A, and you can see farther on down there. I didn't tell you the check numbers because mine are listed differently, but it's 53,136. And that is for a section gymnastics, the gate receipts. We hosted that event here in our schools, and so because of that, we have to pass on those gate receipts to the region. And the last one then is check number 58,145, William Durbin. And that was an author's appearance, and that was paid with funds from a PIE, Partners in Education grant, and that went to have him come and speak to the classroom. Okay. And that's all I have for that one. Was there any questions on that register at all?
What class did he visit?
Mr. Millett's classroom.
6th grade.
Yep, 6th
He
grade.
came last year too, and he's a Minnesota author, and he's written a number of books about Minnesota history.
Oh, okay.
And he's very good.
Oh, okay.
I even sat through some of that.
Well, interesting. So, and then the second one then is the one for today, and that would be March 8, 2016. First one I have there is check number 22,114. Pioneer Manufacturing Company, and that is an athletic paint to use on the fields. And check number 58,151. This is Central Minnesota Educational Research and Development Council, and this is a conference, Viewpoint Conference, that is held in St. Cloud or was held February 24th and 25th in St. Cloud. And one more here. There again, we have some Region 2A events. 58-176, Region 2A, that is girls basketball and boys basketball. Those are gate receipts. We hosted a game for each one of those for boys and girls, and then those receipts then were passed back on to the region. And then the next check down, 58-177, that was for music contest. It's a subsection solo ensemble, and that's the entry fees for that. That was held yesterday, March 7th at MSU, so.
And it was for band, choir, and orchestra. I rode on the bus
Oh,
up
okay.
as chaperone and came back, and the kids were all pretty excited about the ones coming back. They did fairly well.
Did
So
well.
we'll
Good.
be excited to hear from the music department on that, too.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions on any of the information I presented? If you have too difficult questions, I'm going to pass it on to Sue to answer.
Any questions for Julie on the financials?
Okay.
Right.
Then I would offer a motion then to approve the February 2016 Treasurers Report, wire transfers for February 4th, 2016 to March 3rd, 2016, and payment of the February 23rd and March 8th, 2016 bills.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Julie, second by Nicole, to approve the February 2016 Treasurers Report and the payment of the bills for February 23rd and March 8th. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, and thanks, Julie, for reporting on that in Sue's absence. And then no old business on our agenda, but we have new business, and we have policies that the policy committee worked on, Nicole?
Yes, the policy committee met and we discussed the policies that are found in Appendix A. The first 9 policies listed were noted as having not the first 9, but 9 of the policies were noted as needing no changes. The 2 that we're going to look at tonight for first reading were policy number 405, Veterans Preference, and policy number 534, Graduation Policy. The Veterans Preference Policy, number 405, the only change that we made was under 2C sub number 3. That whole section is redundant because it's already noted in in number 2 above it. And so we just voted to strike that. That's the only difference or change in that policy.
Nicole, just a small one, but we'll have to read number 4 to be number 3 then.
Yes, yep, and then the numbers will change.
Okay.
Yeah, yep.
All right.
And so tonight's just our first reading of that. If there's I don't know if there's discussion about it tonight or if we wait to do that next time.
Usually we wait till next time unless somebody has a question about that. All right, we'll bring it back.
Okay,
next for
so
voting.
we will vote on this policy, the changes, recommended changes at our next school board meeting. And then the next policy, number 534, which is our graduation policy. There are a couple of changes on here. One is just, under section Roman numeral 2, A, number 1, all juniors must take the ACT exam. I don't know when that was put in there because we never as a board voted for that. Maybe it was because we were intending to bring it forward at the time when the state did require that all juniors take the ACT. Now they're not requiring it, so that shouldn't be in there because we've never, because we've never voted on that. The last time it was revised was November 26, 2013. So under Roman numeral 2A1, it will just say pass all state mandated testing requirements. And then under 2A3, the required credits currently listed will remain the same with the exception that we will now require 1 credit of Phy-Ed or physical education and 1 credit of health. Previously, we have required 2 credits of each. The state requires no credits in the PE and health department. And the other change that's being made is that the electives, previously they were listed as 10 credits, and going forward, they would be listed as 12 credits, which is compliant with the state requirement that they have 12 elective credits. In Fairmont, it's worth noting that when we say a credit, it means 1 semester. So the PE credit is 1 semester of PE. The health credit will be 1 semester of health. That's the state, actually, when they do it, they count it as different. So if you go to the state's website, it might look like they require half the number of credits that we do, but it's just because they count a full year as being 1 credit. If it's just a semester course, they count it as a half. So anyway, those are the proposed changes that we make. It's just, I think it's worth noting that with these changes, we are moving the PE and health courses. We hope to have students at the elementary school have PE more than once or twice a week. We're hoping that they can have it more consistently, maybe even every day of the week if possible, and that the 6th graders have a health class. So no, there will just be a shifting of when these elements are and standards are taught.
So not necessarily, we'll be able to use the same staff, but then redistribute their time spent within the different buildings.
Yes,
and
yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Yep. And it will still be the same amount of physical education and health. It's just that they'll be moved to years that aren't credit bearing.
Credit bearing.
So
That was
in
the other
8th grade,
question I
yeah,
would have,
yeah.
is that physical education credit and the health credit can be gotten anytime during the 9th and 12th grade years. I think it was
Right.
traditionally kind of felt that 11th grade had a
Yep.
Phi-Ed or health, or,
11 or,
yeah.
and fit and well.
They will recommend that they take them at a certain time because we're trying to add electives to meet the world's best workforce requirement from the state. And in adding these electives, when we looked at what was required by our school district, we realized that not all students will be able to take those electives to become career and college ready. Sure. And they may choose to we'll still be offering PE and health electives, but they can choose then to explore other areas and they'll have more time in their schedule. That's kind of the reason why we first started looking at this.
And with our electives, we do still have a minimum enrollment number, correct? That, we hold a class only if we have, enough to make it worthwhile, or to make it, not just for one student or for, we'll do the best we can, but, okay, good.
And some of these physical education and health credits were being taken online too, so that makes a difference in how we looked at it too. So
Perfect, thank you.
any other questions about those changes to that policy? All right, it will come back at our next meeting also. So if you have a chance to read it before then, great. All right, so that's it for policies, and we have some grants, Danielle.
Yes, let me grab my sheet here. We have 2 grants. Special education teacher Shelley Libra received 2 grants that will provide special year-long learning opportunities to students in her class. The first one is from Explore Learning and provides for use of Reflex Math, which is a math fact fluency program. This grant is valued at $1,625. The second grant is from Learning A to Z and provides for use of HeadSprout Learning, which is a computer-based reading program, and this grant is valued at $1,500. So I will make a motion to approve both grants, the one for $1,625 from Explore Learning and the second one for $1,500 from Learning A to Z.
Thank you, Danielle. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. I have a motion by Danielle, second by Julie, to approve the acceptance of the grants for Shelley Libra's special education programs. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next on our agenda is management services agreement. Dan?
We discussed this in our operations committee meeting on February 22nd. It is an environmental management services contract through IEA, who currently provide this service to the Fairmont Area School District. It includes training for staff, compliance, regulatory items. They do inspections of things like the kitchens, the bleachers, the basketball goals. They have safety committee meetings, and they do record keeping. They're on one of the campuses about twice a month, actually, to visit with Dave Turnberg and to take a look at things through the building. They have proposed a 3-year contract in which the first year would actually be a decrease in cost of 1.29%, and then each of the next 2 years, 2017 to 18 and 2018 to 2019, would be a 3.5% increase. Averaged out over the 3 years, the increase of that contract would be 1.64%, and those services are all paid for with health and safety funds. Dave Turnberg recommended to re-up with them for 3 years, and I'd make a motion to approve entering into a 3-year agreement with IEA, Institute of Environmental Assessment, to provide those management services for the next 3 years at the costs listed in Appendix B.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Danielle. A motion by Dan, second by Danielle to approve the 3-year agreement with the Institute of Environmental Assessment for management services. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Then we'll move to personnel. We have several to go to talk about. Rufus?
Keith Anderson has requested a medical leave beginning February 22nd, 2016, extending to the end of the school year. I therefore make a motion to approve the medical leave request for Keith Anderson, effective February 22nd, 2016, through the end of the school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. I have a motion by Rufus, second by Julie to approve the medical leave for Keith Anderson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second one?
Stephanie Kynes has requested a medical leave effective August 29, 2016 through December 22nd, 2016 per medical recommendation. I make a motion to approve the medical leave request for Stephanie Kynes effective August 29, 2016 through December 22nd, 2016.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Rufus, second by Nicole to approve the medical leave for Stephanie Keynes, starting on August 29th. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have a couple of resignations to talk about, Nicole.
Samantha Sandersfeld has tendered her resignation as a second grade teacher effective at the end of the 2015-16 school year. With that, I move to approve the resignation of Samantha Sandersfeld effective at the end of this current school year.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Danielle. Motion by Nicole, second by Danielle to approve the resignation of Samantha Sandersfeld. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second one.
Caitlin Martins, elementary library media specialist, has submitted her resignation effective at the end of the 2015-16 school year. That I move to approve the resignation of Caitlin Martins effective at the end of the current school year.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rufus. I have a motion by Nicole, second by Rufus to approve the resignation of Caitlin Martins. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have 3 retirements this year. Rufus?
The following teachers have indicated their intention to retire effective at the end of the school year. Bob Millette, 6th grade social studies teacher, has been employed since 1973, 43 years of service. Tony Rosner, 3rd grade teacher, has been employed since 1983, 33 years of service. And Deb Heinrich, elementary physical education teacher, has been employed since 1993, a total of 23 years of service. I make a motion to approve the retirement of Bob Millette effective at the end of the 2015-16 school year.
Thank you, Rufus. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Motion by Rufus, second by Tan to approve the retirement of Bob Millette. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then I make a motion to approve the retirement of Tony Rosner effective at the end of the 2015-16 school year.
Thank you, Rufus. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nicole. Motion by Rufus, second by Nicole to approve the retirement of Tony Rosner. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then I make a motion to approve the retirement of Deb Heinrich effective at the end of the 2015-16 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. So a motion by Rufus, second by Julie to approve the retirement of Deb Heinrichs. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we will invite these 3 retirees to a board meeting, and we'll do a little question answer, or let them tell about their years, which have been many, many at Fairmont schools, and we just thank them for their years of service. But we'll look forward to that coming up. All right, some employments then. Nicole?
Yep, if you'll notice in your packet, Appendix C, we have the fine arts salary schedule. And I just noted there's one little, with Holly Christian, for student council, it says at 315.15%. I think that's supposed to be 15.15%.
Where is that at?
Or 31%, yeah.
Well, there's 3 of them,
Okay.
right? Maybe there's not.
Kelly
250.
Olson.
Yeah, that's right.
It's, yeah.
15%, yep.
And so anyway, the dollar figure is correct.
Okay.
It's the percentage was not listed correctly.
Okay.
So anyway, with that, I move to approve, if there's no discussion, the the fine arts salary schedule for the 2015-16 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. I have a motion by Nicole, second by Julie, to approve the employment of the fine arts coaches for this year, which is Appendix C. Any further discussion or questions on that one? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second one?
And the second one we have is the spring coaches salary schedule, which is Appendix D for the 2015-16 school year. And I move to approve the spring coaches salary schedule and employment as proposed in Appendix D for the 2015-16
Thank
school
you,
year.
Nicole. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rufus. Motion by Nicole, second by Rufus, to approve the employment of the spring athletic coaches. Any further discussion?
There is also one small mistake on that one as well. Under the junior high softball coach, his name is Tim Lanuski, not Terry. So just that typo there.
Where's that at? I see, right?
Yeah.
Is it first name Tim?
Tim, yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Any other discussion or changes on that? All right, I have a motion, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have some substitution
Yes.
business.
With Keith Anderson being on medical leave, we needed to find a long-term sub for his class. His class is a very specialized class with in the woods and construction trades. Therefore, we've had to be creative about how we can cover this class because it's very hard to find teachers certified in this area. Therefore, we have Bob Bonine Sr. working with Eric Walker, who is a licensed substitute teacher, to work in the classroom, with Bob Bonine being the expert in really the construction trades. And we also have Bob Bonine Jr., who will be assuming the responsibility for grading in that area. And also Keith Anderson helps with the STEM 8 classes, or taught the STEM 8 classes. And so we have Brad Johnson, who is assisting Mr. Walker and Mr. Bonine Sr. with the daily lesson plans for the STEM 8 classes. We'd like to thank all of them for really stepping forward to help us at this time. With that, I move to approve the employment of Bob Bonine Sr. and Eric Walker as the long-term substitute woods construction trades teachers effective March 2nd, 2016, extending until a regular teacher is hired and at a regular substitute teacher pay.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. Motion by Nicole, second by Julie, to approve the employment of Bob Bonin Sr. and Eric Walker in the Woods and Construction Trades classes. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. But
And
another
the
employment?
following one is Kyle Shanning. Mr. Davison is recommending that Kyle Shanning be employed as an elementary teacher for the upcoming school year. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in history and will be licensed to teach 5 through 12 social studies. He has taught for the past 4 years in Superior, Wisconsin. With that, I move to approve Kyle Shanning as an elementary education teacher for the 2016-17 school year, effective June 30th, 2016, at a salary of BA Step 6.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. So I have a motion by Nicole, second by Dan, to approve the employment of Kyle Shanning in the elementary department next year. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to get through these board committee reports. CER Advisory Committee, Danielle?
Yes, CER met February 11th. And basically kind of went over, there's a lot of up-and-coming stuff, basically, with spring and summer approaching. They have their new catalog coming out soon, and a lot of stuff in there. One of the things they wanted me to point out was adult basic education. They have all those classes, and those are offered free, which wasn't, I don't know if people are aware of that. And they have their active learning classes that are offered free as well. Big thing coming up, the Family Fun Fair here coming up in a couple weeks. And then they also have the annual Youth Activities Expo, which is April 21st. And that is where a lot of kids can sign up for all the summer activities coming up and about. And it's going to have a Star Wars theme, is what I was told. So that should be fun for the kids. The CER, they applied for grants from the Martin County Youth Foundation for scholarships for their summer day camps. They have 2 of them. A Nature Olympics, and that's for 4th through 7th grade, and then Nature Detectives, which is 1st through 3rd, and that's June 20th through the 23rd. So those are some things coming up. They got the Prairie Ecology Bus has some classes coming up here this spring, and they did the Walk for Diabetes last week, and the kids walked combined 180 miles.
Wow.
So,
Very cool.
yeah, a nice turnout for that.
Yeah. All right. Any questions for Danielle on CER? Thank you. How about operations, Dan?
The Operations Committee meeting on February 22nd, one of the primary things we talked about was the property that the school district owns at the south end of Prairie Avenue, where that street ends just to the south of the soccer fields, is owned by the school district. It's called the Iste property. And at this point, we are interested in collaborating with the city of Fairmont and private developers to provide additional building lots for housing development. The negotiations, I guess, continue at this point, or we have an offer I know that we brought forward to the city as to how to perhaps make this happen, but the city is willing to extend about $1.3 million to develop the infrastructure there, roads, curbs, water, sewer, to make this happen. And we're trying to come up with an agreement. Joe, maybe do you have an update?
Yeah, just
maybe
an
for
update. I
us?
did talk to the city administrator, Mr. Humple, this morning, and the FEDA board is meeting on the 14th of this month to look at this proposal. And then the other thing that Mr. Humple is going to do differently is once they support this, and then they'll bring it to the city council for their support. And once those 2 agencies give the go-ahead, then they're going to go ahead and seek bids on what the cost of putting that infrastructure in. And that's important to do to make sure that this project is going to be cost-effective and that the price of the lots will be enough to offset those costs. But the bottom line is that this is really an exciting project of the city and the school and the private sector working collaboratively together, and it's going to be a win-win-win for the community of Fairmont. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with the FEDA board next week and with the city council, but I'm pretty optimistic that some nice things will happen hopefully in the next month.
At this time, that property is used, crops are planted on it. We have donated labor that harvests the crops, and that money is then donated to the ag program. I understand there is a proposal for us to temporarily use another parcel of land that the city has so that funding would not be lost, at least in the interim, if that goes through.
That's correct.
Okay. So that would be possibly 20 new building lots for new homes in the city of Fairmont, which is apparently quite in demand right now. So that's something that we've worked on for a long time, and we're excited to see come to fruition here, hopefully. We talked about the long-term facilities maintenance plan, which we passed, we talked about the Institute of Environmental Assessment. That's what we passed at the meeting here today. The long-term facilities maintenance plan, no changes have been made to that original plan that we approved last year. We looked also briefly at guidelines for bringing personal appliances and furniture by employees into Fairmont area school buildings, and we discovered that we have quite a lot of things in our buildings that are brought by teachers as comfort items or necessity items for themselves. So we just need to make sure that if an employee leaves the district, that they don't leave all of their stuff behind for us to have to dispose of at our expense. And there will be a surplus auction between the school district and the city. That'll be held on Saturday, March 19th at the Fairmont Armory. So there will be lots of items, and this auction occurs periodically every couple of years or so. And then we also approved Louise Osley to do a chemical inventory of all the chemicals in the science lab storerooms right at the end of school, 2-day period over the summer. That's all.
All right, thanks, Dan. Any questions for Dan or Operations Committee? All right, then the Policy Staff Welfare Committee meeting, Rufus.
Another long meeting. We reviewed policies, which we've already gone over. We reviewed all the personnel things that were discussed previously. Head coaching positions for spring athletics was discussed. QComp, Staff Welfare Committee approved a proposal to hire a full-time QComp coach. There's a current proposal to modify the current QComp plan, which would use QComp dollars to pay for 2 full-time coaches. And so the discussion was, the district funding a 3rd position, which is what the teaching staff felt would be helpful to really make some changes, some positive changes in the schools.
So that will just depend on
That'll depend upon
how the plan's written and on how
Right.
that works. So,
Right.
Yeah.
We heard from Joe about the withdrawal enrollment, which he discussed this evening. We had a look at the technology budget requests coming from both schools, and some of the questions that we had were answered tonight at the earlier presentation. And then finally, not quite finally, there was a discussion about background checks. Currently, the background check procedure that we use is not as robust as what it could be, and so we're going to move to a different process, which will be slightly more money for the district and employees, but will provide a more thorough background check. And brief discussion of school calendar, really nothing, no recommendations were made. Question was brought up regarding use of textbooks for home use. a lot of the courses have their textbooks online, and there's been some concerns brought forward that, that students aren't always allowed to take the textbooks home, and so we're, Superintendent Brown is checking into that. And then we had a brief report from Sue Nelson about refinancing our school bonds, which could result in a net savings to local property taxpayers of $1.5 million over the life of the bonds. And then finally, we received a recommendation from Superintendent Brown to hire a technology intern at $12 per hour to work from mid-May through August 2016 to help the technology staff prepare the new technology equipment for the coming school year. And that was it.
And 2 hours later, that was it. Yeah.
You covered a lot in 2
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
You guys are very efficient.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know it's a busy time at school. The winter activities have all ended and the spring activities are all beginning, and it's Music in the Schools month, and there's just a lot going on in the building. So if anyone has a chance to visit, it's just a fun time to see all that the kids are doing, and spring fever is definitely hit out there too. So anything else that needs to come to the board this evening? Not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Dan, second by Nicole to approve adjourning the school board meeting at 6:43 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
See what happens? We don't meet for a month.
It's a long meeting.
Whoop.